After episode 3, where Percy, Annabeth, and Grover faced the scary Medusa, the preview gave us hints of what's going to happen next. The novel lovers know what's expected, but the show might always take a different turn and surprise us. So let's look at what will happen in episode 4. The name of the upcoming episode is I Plunge to My Death, which foreshadows the seriousness of the new task that is in front of the trio. Nothing is ever easy, and it is so much more true for the young half-bloods and the satyr. After dealing with Medusa and sending her head to Olympus, Percy, Annabeth, and Grover have to continue with their quest to the underworld. As the very first thing, however, they need to figure out how they will get out of the forest and go back to their quest. Before they find a way, there might be new revelations where the characters get to know each other even more. One of them might be Grover's wish to be granted his own quest, which is sacred for the satyrs. His wish is to find the god of wild places, named Pan, who disappeared a long time ago and is believed to be deceased. But the satyrs don't believe the tales, and every often they send a satyr brave enough on the quest, but none of them was successful. But Grover believes he'll be the one who will manage to find him and bring order to nature. Another thing that might happen in the next episode is finding an unexpected savior who will land the trio their hand, or maybe better say a paw. The fans might remember from the book the pink poodle, whose name is Gladiola. The poodle is missing, and her owners promise that whoever finds her gets a financial reward, which is perfect for the trio as they need money to be able to get transportation. However, Percy, being Percy, manages to offend the poodle, which ends up with him apologizing to the dog. Gladiola agrees to be returned to her owner, and the trio collects money and buys train tickets to Denver. During the train trip, we might see for the first time Percy's weird dreams, where he sees a dark, scary pit, which makes him uneasy. But with the time to spare, the trio will dig deeper into their lives before the camp. We already know that Luke, Annabeth, and Thalia were first half-bloods in Grover's care, but only Luke and Annabeth made it to the camp. But what we don't know is why a really young Annabeth was on her own before Luke and Thalia found her. Maybe with nothing better to do, Annabeth will share her story, which involves her father. Mr. Chase never wanted her, and after he married, he even resented her, so the 7-year-old half-blood decided to run away. But the train doesn't go forever, and the trio will once again have a little bit of time on their hands in St. Louis because of a layover, and young heroes being young heroes, they might decide to explore the Gateway Arch, more specifically the top of it. But with them, nothing goes as planned, and when Percy finds himself on the top alone, the trouble finds him. One of the things we could see in the preview of the next episode was Annabeth and Grover splashing water on Percy like he was some kind of fish or a mermaid on the brink of collapse. The fans might know that water had regenerating abilities on Percy because of his father, but the episode needs to tell us what happened to him and why it was necessary. Another thing we could see in the preview was a weird woman who looked like someone who would cause a lot of trouble for the trio. The woman might be Echidna, also known as the Mother of Monsters. In the book, she's disguised as a big woman with a chihuahua, but she might not be beating around the bush, and clearly states that she's a monster and she needs to stop him. As if the chihuahua wouldn't be aggressive enough, in the book, it transforms into Chimera, who looks like a mixed lion and serpent, and its abilities lay in fire breathing. Of course, Chimera attacks him, and we'll get an amazing action scene where Percy will be finding his abilities while trying to save the tourists who are still in the arch. But the arch will get damaged as the Chimera is too powerful. Unfortunately for Percy, he's still 12 and not really trained, so he doesn't stand a chance. His beloved weapon, the Riptide, gets lost while Percy battles Chimera, and he understands that it might be over for him. Echidna, being petty, taunts him that he, a son of Poseidon, is scared of the river underneath, and if he trusted his abilities, he would just jump into the river. With no other option, Percy prays that he'd make it out alive and jumps into the water, and that's the moment where the title of the episode starts making sense. But the fact that we'll get 4 more episodes makes it clear that Percy somehow makes it out alive. Meanwhile, we could get a cut to Annabeth and Grover, who are unaware of the situation, which would be a comedic interlude in the tough situation. But the series is not shying away from changing things from the books, as we could already see in this week's episode. In the preview, it looks like Echidna is following them even during the train ride, which makes the situation even more dire for the trio. Also, trio. Percy pushes Grover and Annabeth on the stairs so they would be able to run away from the arch while he fights the monsters on his own. We already know that he'll protect his friends no matter what, but this solidates it even more. He's on his way to becoming a real hero, even if it's more reluctant than willing. Percy's jump is the moment where the episode could end if Rick Riordan was a menace, because we all know how much he loves cliffhangers. An example could be the ending of The Mark of Athena, but let's believe he wouldn't do that to his audience, at least not in the first season of the show. Even though Percy is a son of the god of the sea, the arch is still really tall, and Percy might face the consequences of his life choices, but he might also gain new information necessary for his quest. In the novel, Percy not only survives the jump, but also finds out that the impact didn't hurt. His clothes are dry and he can easily breathe underwater. What's more, he might be reunited with his favorite pen-turned sword, Riptide, which will save his life many more times. In the book, Percy also meets a river female spirit and tells him to do a detour to Santa Monica, where he'll find help before going to the god of the underworld, Hades. Her other advice is to be wary of the gifts he might receive. The spirit also reassures Percy that his quest isn't pointless and that his mother's fate is not decided yet, but he might find success. Then he grabs his sword and swims on the shore to get back to Annabeth and Grover and retell them what he learned from the spirit. Big accidents like what happened in the arch bring in crowds who want to see what really happened, because humankind is first and foremost nosy and we always need to know everything. While Percy is chatting with the spirit in the river, the arch might get surrounded by the police, firemen, ambulances, and the news, so everybody would be prepared for everything they might find at the arch. From the preview, we could see that Echidna and Chimera made a real number on the arch. There's a massive hole in the construction from which Percy probably jumps. The tourists who wanted to enjoy the trip might be the eyewitnesses of the happenings who will tell the police, and the news that a boy jumped into the water. The mist, also known as glamour, might change their perspective on what the eyewitnesses saw, but somehow they might remember Percy and his appearance. One of the things that the show hasn't revealed is that Percy is wanted by the police because of destroying the car that belongs to his stepfather, Gabe Ugliano, when he was trying to get into the camp in the first episode, and later for damaging the bus when he was attacked by Mrs. Dodds in the latest episode. In the book, people quickly make a connection that the boy wanted by the police is the same one who jumped into the river. That forces the trio to lay even lower as they are hunted not only by the monsters and the gods, but also by normal people. That will make the quest even harder, but the half-bloods and the satyr are nothing if not determined, and the stakes are high. At the end of the episode, we might see the trio disappearing from the scene as soon as possible before someone catches them, and go to the train station to somehow make their way to Santa Monica to find whatever the spirit wanted them to find. Maybe we'll finally get to meet a Greek god besides Hermes, who was delivering Medusa's head on the Olympus, as episode 4 will be the one that will lead us into the second half of the 8 episodes long season. The stakes are higher than ever. It'll be interesting to see where this episode will lead us, and the audience finds the waiting tortuous. Unfortunately, there's a rumor that the next episode will be only 33 minutes long, which is the shortest episode yet. It might be disappointing to some fans, but it looks like it'll still be packed with action and crazy stuff that can only happen to Percy Jackson and his friends. What are your predictions for the next episode?